underrated movies. I'm your guy. I'm your man, Mr. Alton Henry. I actually like them using the microphone. Today, I would like to talk to you of another underrated film, which I think it's not. It's fine. It's a remake. It's a remake of a film. It's a film that it's not better than the original, but everybody has their opinions on what based on a film that it's either has an original or it's been remade. Uh, and I'm going to talk about the 2013 Spike Lee's reinterpretation of the classic graphic novel. I think it's a manga, Oldboy, which stars Elizabeth Olsen, Josh Brolin, or is it Charlito Copley, and then Samuel L. Jackson. Pretty much the same storyline as the original, but except being trapped for 15 years in a room by himself. A man named Joe Ducett has been kidnapped and imprisoned in a hotel like room for 20 years. And he's released to find out why after a long containment. He has to find his figure out why. So this is a revenge thriller on a new take, and I'm not going to really compare much to the original. I mean, there are some differences here or there, and from Spike Lee's take, he tried to go a little bit darker, and this film does, in my opinion, is a little bit darker, and the ideas that were changed, I found it to be a little bit more fascinating. I mean, I don't know if I would say necessarily improvement over the original, because I think the original was directed increasingly artistically well, but here this is a Americanized, somewhat mainstream version of the same story with with a few different changes. And I do like some of these changes. It's just some of these ideas. I wish they were fleshed out a little bit longer because I think the original cut rumored that this film was originally supposed to be 140 minutes. Now, the film was cut down to 104, which till this day, both Spike Lee and Josh Brolin have increasingly mentioned their regret over the studio's decision at that time. And I think the studios is the company that just released it was Film District, which is no longer active. Film There were a few. Quite a few things I really liked about this film. I really like the performances here, with Josh Brolin and Elizabeth Olsen. They do follow that team dynamic of Josh Brolin, who is trying to find out why he was imprisoned, and I kind of like that fish out of water kind of vibe he gives around where he's trying to relearn certain things and to adapt to a whole new world of how the world has changed after 20 years of imprisonment. So it's nice to see his reaction to basically everything around him, his old friends that he meets, his friend that helps him out, Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlet Witch, and Thanos in a movie together. You kind of see those two play detective and how their connection kind of forms um, throughout the story. And it's also nice to know that Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy is also in here briefly as a henchman or second in command to Copley's villainous character, which I really like his villainous take a little bit, but it felt a little bit his certain character is the way that he is for a certain reason. The approach was to deliver a pretty much high classy um educated wealthy family. And the backstory, how that character um, story gets revealed, is utterly tragic, and it is disturbing. Which it is disturbing. I'm gonna be honest with you. There were parts here and more in ideas of how this story kind of just gets more, how it kind of involve like resolves. It gets more disturbing from the original. For those who haven't seen it, I'm gonna spoil a little bit of it. There is a sibling relationship from the villain's side. That's all I'm gonna say. They expanded it to more. So instead of just those two, it's the whole family. Okay, and that was weird. Okay, it's weird. So that was a very weird thing. But it was very interesting how they kind of expanded that to the, so instead of from this, it's going to that. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty shocking. And it's shocking to kind of see how that situation gets resolved. And I do like some of the unique creative techniques that Spike Lee does with certain sequences with flashback sequence. Which actually was also one of my favorite sequences early into the film is Josh Brolin's when he's trapped within the room for a long time. I love the montage. I think it's probably one of the best montages I've seen in any freaking film because it felt so darkly motivational from anybody, like just from a hero building himself up to try to be, get the strength to be powerful and to try to get his revenge. I mean, I really love it was probably one of my favorite sequences in the film, and probably my number one favorite sequence in the film is that montage. It felt very, very inspirational from anything I've seen. Um, I do like. I wouldn't say that the cinematography is great here. I do think it is good, but not better than the original. Though there are quite a few shots, and I love the visual look that Spike Lee has done with this film. Um, I do like some of the action scenes, though I do feel like they did snip a lot of details and sequences from the edit room because it feels like there's things missing from this film. For some strange reason, somebody was able to grab the full length fight sequence, one way, one shot fight sequence. Because I remember seeing it in theaters. There was a shot that is one way, and then it cuts to another section of the fight. Somehow, somebody uploaded the full fight. Now, I don't know if it's a DVD sequence or like a part of the DVD release or something to upload that, but the full fight was uploaded and it is pretty cool. Um, doesn't feel as grittier compared to the original, but it feels more, I would say, creatively shot. And I think that's kind of what they were going for. It felt a little bit cartoony though at parts though. I ain't gonna lie to you. Uh, there are a few parts I really do like. Uh, besides the some of the other parts I mentioned earlier, Samuel Jackson, even though he's in there, I feel like he's underutilized in this movie. And there's a certain character he plays from the original, which honestly, I mean, I felt they could have got any actor. I just felt Samuel L. Jackson's presence was underwhelming. I mean, he's there. It's nice to know he's there. It's underwhelming that what but the story's not about him. But the ending finale, it is darker. I do think the ending to the original is a little bit more disturbing than compared to the 2013 American version, but the American version I do think is darker. And this is a spoiler because we all know if anybody who's familiar with the original, you know that the main character, once when he remembers the reason why he was trapped in the room, um, you know. Bad guy places guilt on him to finally remember for the rest of his life that he's going to remember a certain thing that he did in the past, and plus also spoilers who don't know, which I won't spoil it here in case anybody does want to watch it. There is a certain thing that does happen with Josh Brolin. That's all I'm going to say. And then you have the bad guy go into the elevator. He has a vision of meeting his ex lover, and then he commits suicide. And then you have the main character, um, sometime later, wishing the therapist that there's a therapist in the film. The film didn't. The new remake didn't have a therapist, or somebody hypnotized. It didn't have that. Um, to somewhat make him forget about his old ordeal with a certain specific detail of the plot, and it's left ambiguous whether if he remembers or not. The remake, after the villain does proceed to commit suicide, um, the main character does chooses to go back get locked up from the place he was held captive at, and too ashamed to discover the truth of what he's done, he pretty much decides to remain in imprisonment for the remainder of his life. That's dark. Which really is really like maybe two action scenes in the whole film, and they're just like brawling fights. But that's fine. It's more of a story-driven drama thriller. It's more of a thriller, and you know what? I get it. The comparison, gets a lot of hate, but this film wasn't too bad. It ain't one of Spike Lee's best movies, but I do respect that he tried to tackle something different, and I mean, given his age, I know he's been doing things for quite some time now. I'm kind of glad he finally did something that was more action oriented, or just something that was kind of like different from his um other piece of works. Old Boy 2013. Have you seen it? Comment below. Let me know if you have. I do recommend it if you're just looking for a unique thriller. That's a little bit different. Do check this out, which I highly recommend. Or you could just watch the original South Korean film and let me know what is your favorite underrated movie.